Hello everyone, thanks for coming out. My name's David. Sorry about my formal attire, it's the best I got here. But to save time, let's get right into it. And I want to start with why I think I'm qualified to be Chancellor. So first, my Delta Sigma Pi experience. I served as pledge class president. I wanted to get involved right away and take on a leadership role. The past semester that I was home, I was on pledge committee and I got to see a different side of the fraternity, as well as going to public forums and cabinet meetings to see how those were run and see what the Brotherhood had on big ideas. But I think what sets me apart is my experience within UPUA. The past semester I was home, I served as the Schreier Honors College representative, and it was a great experience, but I want to share a story that I think is extremely important. UPUA was under extreme pressure to change their constitution and bylaws, and we put forth a policy to vote on, and I was the only one to vote no on the bylaw change. The judicial board actually sided with me, and then I worked with higher UPUA leadership and other representatives to make sure we got a new bylaw that actually would work, and that ended up passing unanimously, and the judicial board approved that. And I share that story for a couple reasons. The first is to show that I have bylaw experience. They can be very tricky and intertwined and stuff like that, and I think having worked with them for half a year, like a full semester, is something that sets me apart. Second off, I was able to expose all sides when talking about the old and the new bylaws that we had for UPUA. And finally, based on my vote, it shows that I can put the fraternity over my interests and do what is right. But I also want to move into more of my initiatives and how I think I can shape the position. So the first would be with chapter slides. On the left here, we have what chapter slides look like in the past, and on the right is what I want to do. And that is adding in a summary of the previous cabinet meeting. So for the example I have here, talking about week 5 risk management, people wanting to go camping, and the election discussion, talking about the points that were made and the end result and decision. The first reason I want to do this is for transparency. I want people to know what we're talking about at cabinet. And as it's an extra time commitment that we take on, we should encourage brothers to attend, but we shouldn't force them to. The second thing is this would allow younger brothers to immediately start learning about cabinet and see the type of things we talk about, and we do. Finally, I want to point out, and I think it's important to point out, that if there is a conversation that we're having that we don't think should be made public, or it would contain another brother in person, we would never expose them, and we would make sure that remains private. Another idea I have is a database, and I want to start with the problem. So the problem is turnover, which is not necessarily a bad thing, it's just something that cabinets go through each semester. About 50% of the cabinets are always new, and year after year we're getting new people, but they, interestingly enough, deal with similar problems. So I thought if we create a database where someone from cabinet answers what problem did the cabinet face, how did they address the problem, and what could have been done better and what went well, they could put that into a Google form that only the president and the chancellor have access to the responses, and then that gets handed down from year to year. This would create a precedent for the future. If we see, somebody's not turning in their attendance policy, or someone's not paying their dues, we can see how previous cabinets had handled that experience and use it to our advantage, helping cabinet, in a sense, run more efficiently. Once again, touching on the privacy issues. First off, no names would ever be said in this. We don't want to put someone under that type of scrutiny, as well as nothing that has to deal with hazing or underage drinking or anything that could incriminate the fraternity. Only broader issues or things that we can make broad enough that it wouldn't be a problem should we accidentally release this somewhere. My final 2 points I want to talk about have to deal with bid night. So the first is the 20% rule, the fact that if you get 20% of the vote on bid night, you get a revote, and I think that's insanely low. However, it's not my decision to make whether we raise that. So I want to form some form of an exploratory committee, whether that be brothers who want to take this on as a project and gain some leadership experience, or cabinet takes it on and holds an open forum and talks to the brothers, as well as maybe Chelsea and other people to help us make the change. I also think it's important when we look at the data in this upcoming semester or two, see what percent of people fall in the 20 to 40, 20 to 50% range, even the 20 to 80% range, and see what percent of them, if any, are actually getting in. This can make bid night more efficient. If we cut out 10 or 12 revotes, we're saving potentially 30 minutes to an hour, which is 15 to 20% of our time. And in turn, people may be willing to stay, which one, assures we have quorum, but two, increases representation in people's opinions. The other half of midnight I want to talk about is emphasizing that we still need to rely on conversation and not the rush scorecard. I want to make it clear that I like the rush scorecard and want to keep it and want to keep working on it. But as it currently stands, it is full of biased data points. First off, if I like someone, I might rate them a 7 or 8 when somebody rates them a 9 or 10, and that's not standardized. Second, which kind of ties into the next point, is the fact that interviews, some people may grade harder than others. And I know Joey and Abby and other people are working to standardize the interview scorecard, which is great. But that means next semester those numbers could be inflated or deflated, and we don't want to become over-reliant on them. I think with my statistics background, I can do some really cool stuff with the data, as well as understand the changes that we're making and explain the mean and medians and like overall scores that we would have on the slide. So finally, I want to talk about the 4 things that I really think I can bring to the fraternity. The first is a set of fresh eyes. My UPUA experience is something that we haven't had in the past, and my experience with the bylaws really sets me apart and makes me a great qualified candidate. Second, diversity of thought and opinion. Not only do I bring a new perspective and want to see all sides, but I also want to hear your diversity of thought and opinions and hear from the whole brotherhood on big important issues. I also want to focus on transparency, and I think I bring that with the chapter slides, really getting people to understand what we're doing in cabinet and that we're not doing anything that doesn't better the fraternity and keep us like the lowest risk management, like good risk management and not much liability. And finally, efficiency. I think with raising the 20% rule and the new database, we can help the fraternity and chapter run efficient. So I think I bring 4 new things, and I'm a really good candidate, and I'll stand for questions.